Good day, good day. Welcome back to Direction Forward Memphis. Again, Neil Lewis with you on a beautiful July 8th Monday morning. And I'm glad that you chose to join me today. Jumping right into stories, again, concerning the city of Memphis. I wanted to start off with a story that was posted with, I think this was an interview Mayor Paul Young did earlier this week, last week. So we'll jump right into this story and see what he has to say. But the title obviously shows Memphis population declining over the years.
News right now, we hear a lot about Memphis's crime crisis and its education crisis, but there's another crisis that we don't hear as much about, and it may be our biggest challenge, our population crisis. For decades, as Memphis grew by gobbling up surrounding areas like Hickory Hill and Cordova, it gave the false impression the city's population was growing. But check out these numbers. In 1990, we went from a little more than 610,000 people to just over 650,000 by the 2000 census. But when the annexation stopped, the numbers started falling. In 2010, the census showed Memphis had a little less than 647,000 people. 10 years later, the number of Memphians fell to 633,000. And in the past 3 years, our population declined to 618,000. That's a drop of 14,465 people, 5,200 just last year, or 14 people every single day. ABC 24's Richard Ransom has more.
We see evidence of the population decline all over Memphis. The blight, empty homes where people used to live, empty businesses where people used to work and shop. It's also evidence of a shrinking tax base that means less money to run the city. Memphis Mayor Paul Young made the city's population decline, especially among young people, a focal point of his first 100-day speech last April.
And if you're a young person thinking that your talents would be better served elsewhere, I'm going to ask you to reconsider as well. Because quite simply, Atlanta doesn't need you. Chicago doesn't need you. New York and Nashville don't need you. Memphis needs you.
His remarks got a standing ovation, and he's talking about former Memphians like William Woods, who moved to Charlotte 2 years ago. He told me Memphis doesn't offer enough choices for young professionals like him.
Wanting opportunities to grow, but there aren't a lot of them in Memphis. And so people seek other opportunities elsewhere.
And there's the crime.
The thing that I don't miss is the crime. And I'll say that, like, for Mother's Day, I came home to visit my mom and also hang out with friends. Within the first 4 hours, I was welcomed with a car break-in.
Mayor Young says he's laser focused on addressing the population decline.
It's almost like a chicken and egg. All of these things are connected. In order to recruit job opportunities, we have to address public safety. In order to address public safety, you have to have opportunities for these people that are making the decisions to go into a life of crime. And so from our perspective, we're working to do all of the things.
Young points to the recent decision by Elon Musk to build the world's largest XAI supercomputer here as an example of a significant win that starts to change the narrative about Memphis. That's exactly the kind of thing former Hamilton High School grad Rita Morrow wants to hear about the city where she grew up. She's another professional who moved away to pursue her business career in Atlanta and now Louisville, Kentucky.
And this is something that I've believed, and I believe I've spoke on before. I understand the crime problems here in Memphis. I understand some of the outlook that, the jobs that we get are mainly factory jobs, or they're not something that's going to actually raise your quality of life. But what I do know is the history of this city, the people that are in this city are all great. We have the right ingredients to make a great end result. It's just how we go about baking that cake.
I still love my hometown. I take my grandchildren there because I want them to know where I grew up.
Her hope for Memphis?
That we start with the kids right at the ground level, educating them, making sure that they have hope for a future.
William says he's hopeful Memphis might lure people like him to come home.
Honestly, I miss the food. There is hands down no comparison in Charlotte to Memphis food.
As the census numbers show, the population crisis did not happen overnight, and it won't be fixed quickly either.
We're going to continue to do the things to ensure that Memphis becomes the next great city in the South. Every few years you hear about a city that's having an amazing run like Nashville has had over the last 10, 15 years. I think it's Memphis's turn.
100%. I'm on board. You know what? And one of the major things that have always gone through my mind is, and especially when it comes to the crime, so on and so forth. I don't know how the implementation would necessarily be done, but getting kids at a very young age involved in business activities, something that helps them understand the processes of what business really is, opens a door into making money, if not right then at that particular time, definitely into the future. It just sets off a bunch of lights in your head when you're young and you're exposed to something that you can see actually grow or become something bigger than what it was when you very first started. That is a draw. That's something that would be a great benefit for the city if there was something along those lines. I understand that they have some summer work programs for kids that apply. I don't know how many kids that are actually accepted to that program on a year-to-year basis, but we need to have maybe on a community basis, if there's pools of funds that can be done, in some of these actual businesses that don't have necessarily to do anything to do with Memphis City government. Maybe businesses can lock in with Memphis City government and go out into the communities and find these kids and bring them into the businesses and show them exactly how, businesses are run, what's done on a day-to-day. All of it might not be glamorous. Business isn't glamorous at the end of the day. The end result is, or some of the stories you hear are, but it's long. It happens. It's a process, but in terms of the population declining over the years, that's really a result to me of, the types of jobs that are available. For one, the crime, because there may be a lack of opportunity in the city, for people. And that's the crime piece is something that affects absolutely everybody in the community, not just the person that's involved with the crime or the so-called victim of the crime. It is a crime of the community, and we hear about it. We see it, so on and so forth. Some things aren't going to be able to be stopped, but things can be put into place to help reduce the number of occurrences and situations that happen. And really it's just about communication and honestly branching out into each individual community as much as possible, the knocking of the doors and so on and so forth. More, community events and areas, even in the Cordova areas and so on and so forth, kind of bringing it together instead of just the same old status quo. I'm glad that, the whole deal with the Elon Musk supercomputer being built here in Memphis, if it does come to fruition, it's going to be a great thing for the city and for the people that are employed in that endeavor. But we don't know if that's going to happen just yet. But more things need to be added to the slate as well. Bring in more large businesses, help create and grow current small businesses in the city, promote voices, and so I think that the population decline can be reversed. I'm glad that the mayor has on his mind growing the city, and hopefully we can get on one of the runs like Nashville. You see a lot of cranes in the downtown area. I've gone to Nashville a few times. They have a ridiculous amount of cranes in their skyline. And I hope that Memphis can get to that point. But we need to take care of a few essential things first before it will be exactly what we are hoping it to be. Okay, jumping into the next deal. So, okay, this is another deal, and I believe that this one was done. This incident occurred down on Beale Street, and the headline reads, "Bullet shatters downtown restaurant window. Man says fragment almost hit him in the head." All right, so Bullets went flying in downtown Memphis on Sunday morning. So that would have been on the 7th. One of those bullets, police said, went right through the window of a Beale Street restaurant. Fox 13 is learning that this happened while someone was sitting inside the establishment. Fox 13 talked to a man who said he was at the location around 4:45 a.m. Sunday when the police said gunshots went off. He told Fox 13 he heard the gunfire and saw everything that happened. It started shooting up from on top of Beale Street. The guns rang all the way down to B.B. King Boulevard, about 30 shots. Wow. Gunshots went off early Sunday morning at B.B. King and 162 Beale Street. Police confirmed that address as King's Palace Cafe. According to police, the person who was inside sitting near a window when a bullet fragment ripped through the glass. The victim told police she heard 5 gunshots. Meanwhile, Spatz described, and that was a witness, described what he heard when he was there this morning. Loud shots. It wasn't no small caliber gun, big guns. Spates told Fox 13 he frequents the area and he says he's lucky to be alive, claiming he was so close to the commotion, the bullet fragment almost hit him. This bullet almost hit my head, Spates explained as he held the bullet fragment, showing it to Fox 13. I was standing by the pole and when it hit, you could see the flash from the pole, the ding ding, and it hit the street. You could see the light. Fox 13 went to the location Sunday, noticing a boarded up window near the front of the cafe. It's unclear whether that damage was linked to the shooting. Meanwhile, police said the victim heard the gunman yelling out profanities. Space told Fox 13 he saw this unfold. He was yelling out profanities to the guy in the car, and the guy in the car retaliated. He went and got 2 of his friends, and it went from there. One guy walked past me and stated that the guys that we're looking for are in the car up there. He walked past me and had his gun tucked. By the time he came around the corner, the guy got out of the car, and they were stretched across Beale Street like tombstones. They began firing straight down the street. Despite this recent shooting, some local families made their way to the popular downtown area over the weekend, but expressed frustration about the impact crime has had on this major tourist attraction. Everybody from all walks of life come here just for Beale Street to experience the experience. For them to have to be worried about people shooting, that's not safe. Police report locating 23 casings and bullet fragments in the area. No injuries were reported. No arrests have been made. Yeah. Well, we're running back into the situation that the crime is really affecting, the reputation of the city. It's affecting tourism and how people feel about going to the downtown area, coming to Memphis, period. And that police presence is absolutely necessary in order to curb this crime. I was looking at, let's see where this was. Yeah, and things can happen so quickly. There really is no one size fit all type of. There's no one size fit all solution for this type of problem. It really is handled on a case by case basis. I was involved in a similar situation yesterday, and an argument occurred, and I feel like I was in the right on that argument. And I don't make it a point to argue with people. I try my very best not to. The situation could have been de-escalated very quickly if I had chose not to engage, but nothing happened from it. The moral of the story is this type of thing happens all over the place. And I'm not even an aggressive type of person. I stand on what I do, and I would like to communicate that clearly to someone if I feel like they are overstepping, or if I'm in my lane and minding my business or doing something that I know to be justified in my mind. Sometimes you just have to have the grace to allow things to happen and not always be in conflict with someone else. So me having that experience allowed me to know maybe sometimes I can kind of take a step back and not necessarily engage in it. And that's some of it, Other things can't be avoided, especially when it comes to the gunplay. I don't really understand that part. That's what a lot of this stuff is turning into. We're shooting, so on and so forth. I'm young enough to where that wasn't the number one go-to when I was growing up. At least we didn't do that. But I know that it's been a part of a lot of communities, and really, to be honest with you, I feel like people are scared when they start running the guns. There's very few situations where you have to end somebody's life with a gun, unless they're approaching you and showing force to the point where you feel like your life is in jeopardy. Even in a situation that I was in yesterday, the individual grabbed a pistol and put it in his pants after we had the exchange of words. Not good, because I wasn't approaching the individual. I said what I had to say, but then it got stepped up another level. I'm not sure. I 100% believe if that could have made me look at things a totally different way, and I would have, and if I would have reacted differently, it could have been a bad situation. Those are the types of things we're trying to avoid. The men in the community obviously need to speak to other men. We handle each other with respect, and do our best not to. You might push some buttons, but the point where we need to have any type of black on black violence and all the rest of that stuff, it's not necessary. I feel like as a community, and a black community, we really need to bring it together. We really need to bring it together. And make it a unit, It's way too easy to go pull a gun and try to shoot on somebody, so on and so forth, when we can work together and get a lot farther. So, this is one of those things where a lesson needs to be learned from this. I hope that, obviously, MPD, for the visitors that are coming into town and for the people that live here in this city, MPD is able to get down to the bottom of this. Because if you're willing to go down to Beale Street and let off 30 shots first thing in the morning, or I don't know what time it was when this situation happened, but if you're willing to go down there first thing in the morning or down on Beale Street, period, and shoot, you're willing to do it again, especially if you're not caught. It emboldens whoever's doing that type of thing. And that's something we don't need. So hopefully we get some type of resolution on the whole Beale Street shooting and some type of permanent resolution, not just in this case, but in all cases that are similar.